Hello future professionals, welcome to our day 20 of top 100 coding question analysis. Today we are challenged with the question to find the greatest even number in the list. We have got our problem statement, so next is our hands-on experience. Suppose we are challenged with the list of numbers, we start by indexing the list. The index starts from 0 and goes on till n minus 1. Next, we initialize a variable, the greatest even number to minus 1. Why not 0? We'll very soon know why it is not 0. Next, we must know the length of the list. The length of the list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The length of the list is 8. Next, the process is to select each element from the list and check it against two conditions. First condition is that whether the element is an even number. If the first condition satisfies, we check the second condition whether the element is greater than the value present in the greatest even number variable. Right? If both conditions satisfies, then we change the value of the greatest even number to the element that we have found. Let's start from the first element, that is from the 0th index. We get 1. 1 is an odd number, so we move on to the next element. The next element is 5. It is also odd, so we move on to the next element. Next element is 7. It is also odd, so we move on to the next element. We get 8. We know 8 is an even number, so it satisfies the first condition. Let's check for the second condition. The second condition is whether 8 is greater than minus 1. Yes, 8 is greater than minus 1. So we change the value of the greatest even number to 8. Next, we move on to the next element. We get 16. 16 satisfies the first condition of even number. So we check for the second condition whether 16 is greater than 8. Yes, 16 is greater than 8. So we change the value of the greatest even number to 16. Next, we move on to the next element. We get 25. 25 is an odd number, so we move on to the next element. We get 36. 36 satisfies the first condition, that is 36 is an even number. So let's check for the second condition. Whether 36 is greater than 16? Yes, 36 is greater than 16. So we change the value of the greatest even number to 36. Now let's move on to the next element and the last element of the list, that is 77. 77 is an odd number. So let's terminate the program as we have reached the end of the list by printing the greatest even number as 36. As we have got the hands-on experience with solving the problem, let's derive the logic from the solved example. The logic is that we must declare a variable, that is greatest even number to minus 1. As you have asked why not 0, let me give the explanation why not 0. We do not initialize the greatest even number variable to 0 because 0 in itself is an even number. And suppose we are given with a list of only odd numbers, that is, suppose we assume this list. We only have odd numbers here. Then our program would wrongly output the greatest even number in the list as 0. So in order to avoid this, we initialize it to minus 1. Next, we must get the length of the list. Let me call it as n, right? Then we must use a for loop to iterate through the list. To select each element, right? And we must check for two conditions, that is condition number 1, if it is a even number. The second condition applies when the first condition is satisfied, that is if it is greater than the value stored in greatest even number variable, right? If these conditions satisfy, we change, this is the fifth process, change the value of greatest even number, right? If not, we move on to the next element. Once we complete checking each element with the above conditionalities, we terminate the program by printing the greatest even number, right? Now that we have understood the logic, it's time to code. Let's start the program by defining a function to get the user's input. I name the function getUserInput. Here, we shall get the length of the list from the user and store it in the length variable. Next, we shall append the elements to the elements list one by one as the user inputs. Next, let's return the elements list. The second function is defined to find the greatest even number. I name the function greatest even number and it gets the parameter as elements. Here, we initialize the greatest even number variable to -1 and get the length of the list using length method and store it in the variable length. Next, we shall use for loop to iterate through the list, that is, effectively selecting each element in the list. Now, the selected element will be checked whether it belongs to even number. If it belongs, then we check whether it is greater than the greatest even number. If both conditions satisfy, we replace the value of greatest even number with the element. Else, we move on to the next element. Let's now print the output, the greatest even number. Now that we have defined all our required functions, it's time we call them. Let me call the getUsersInput function and store the return value in the elements variable. Next, let me call the greatest even number function and pass elements as the argument. Now let's check for any errors or warning signals. We do not have any errors or warning signals. Let's run the program. The program is asking me to enter the length of the list. Let me enter 8. The elements in the list will be similar to the elements that we have practiced with. The program gives me the output. The greatest even number in the list is 36. Thus, we have successfully completed our program. I hope you would have got the best out of this video. I recommend you subscribing our channel to get more such interesting videos. And I also recommend you to like and share our video if you find it useful and interesting.